You come here today with questions, though perhaps you do not yet know them by name. You believe the story you have been telling yourself for years, that the wounds in your life were carved into you by the hands of others, that the betrayal you feel is the result of their cruelty, that the restlessness in your soul is the echo of someone else's violence, and perhaps on the surface that is true. We are, after all, shaped in part by the world that meets us, but the psyche, my friend, is not satisfied with surfaces. It pulls you deeper into the subterranean hallways of your own being, and there it whispers. What you are seeing is not them, it is you. Not the you that you parade in the daylight, but the one who waits in the corridors of night. Your shadow. I know the impulse to resist these words. The ego, that vigilant guardian of our conscious identity, recoils at the idea that we might be the architects of our own torment. But understand, I am not saying you willed your suffering. I am saying that the way it repeats, the way it burns, with the same patterns and smells of the same smoke, is because you have yet to look into the mirror the unconscious is holding for you. And in that mirror, the face you despise in others is your own reflection. Distorted by the waters of repression and fear, the shadow is not evil. It is not some moral failing or cosmic punishment. It is the totality of what the conscious mind refuses to admit belongs to it. These are qualities, desire, impulses, strengths and weaknesses alike, that for one reason or another you have decided are unacceptable. And so you bury them, but what is buried does not die. It grows roots in the unconscious, feeding itself on forgotten memories and unspoken fears. One day, you meet someone whose very presence seems to provoke you beyond reason. You tell yourself they are arrogant, selfish, cruel, manipulative, and perhaps they are, but your fascination, your outrage, the peculiar heat in your blood betrays something more. The unconscious has found a vessel to carry back to you the parts you have exiled in the ancient myths. The hero never encounters the monster by accident. The beast in the cave is not a random obstacle. It is the embodiment of the hero's own unintegrated self. The dragon guards the treasure, because the treasure is in the dragon's belly. And so it is with the people who provoke you. They are not here merely to cause you pain. They are here because your psyche has summoned them, not the conscious self. Of course, you would never consciously invite such discomfort, but the unconscious cares nothing for comfort. It craves wholeness, and wholeness can only be found by embracing what you have rejected. You blame them because it feels cleaner than turning inward, but if you linger in that blame, you will notice something. It does not free you. It binds you. You find yourself thinking of them in the quiet hours, rehearsing conversations that will never be had, nursing injuries that never seem to close. And here, my friend, is the clue. What belongs entirely to another cannot live so persistently in you. What is wholly foreign will pass like weather. What is truly yours will cling like skin. Perhaps you dream of them. In the dream, they may wear strange faces or speak in riddles, but the emotional imprint is unmistakable. Dreams, you see, are the royal road to the unconscious. They do not care for the facts of the waking world, only for the truths of the inner world. And when a dream figure provokes in you the same charge as a waking adversary, it is a sure sign that the figure is a projection of your own unowned qualities. Projection is not a moral flaw. It is the psyche's attempt at self-regulation. What cannot be seen within will be seen without, and often in exaggerated form. You will meet your own repressed anger in the overly aggressive co-worker, your hidden envy in the arrogant acquaintance, your denied tenderness in the overly emotional friend. In this way, life becomes an endless hall of mirrors. To the uninitiated, this is torment. To the one willing to work, it is the path to individuation. Individuation, the journey toward becoming the whole self, is not a polite process. It will drag you into rooms you swore you'd never enter and show you aspects of yourself that you will want to deny, condemn, even destroy. But if you destroy them, you destroy part of your own life force. The shadow carries not only the dark impulses we fear, but also the vitality, creativity, and instinct that have been locked away with them. When you see the shadow in another, you are being given a key. The discomfort you feel is the door to enter. You must do the thing most people will avoid until the day they die. You must admit that what you see out there exists in here. This does not mean you condone destructive behavior. It means you recognize the same capacity lives in you. And by doing so, you rob it of its compulsive power. Think of the alchemists, those medieval magicians of transformation. They believed that to turn base metal into gold, one had to first confront the prima materia, the dark, chaotic substance. At the beginning of the work, the shadow is your prima materia. Others will appear in your life to deliver it to you, often wrapped in the irritating, infuriating behaviors you most despise, and your ego will shout, "Get rid of them," but your soul will whisper, "Look closer. This is yours." And here is the paradox. Once you take back your projection, once you own the shadow as part of yourself, the other person loses their power over you. They may still be who they are, but you are no longer hooked. The emotional charge dissolves, and with it, the sense of being trapped in their orbit. In reclaiming the shadow, you reclaim your freedom. The question then is not, how do I change them, but what in me is being mirrored here? Sit with that question. Let it work on you in the silent hours. Watch what images, memories, sensations arise. Do not rush to interpret them. Let them reveal themselves as they will. The unconscious speaks in the language of symbol, and symbols do not yield their meaning to force only to patient attention. You may begin to notice that the qualities you have despised in others are not simply negative. Your judgment has flattened them into caricatures, but in truth they are ambivalent forces. The arrogance you hate may be a distorted form of self-confidence you lack. The coldness you condemn may be the healthy detachment you have never allowed yourself to develop. The manipulation you abhor may be the strategic intelligence you have disowned in favor of a naive idealism. To integrate the shadow is to restore balance. It is to say, yes, I am capable of this. and in doing so, to choose consciously how you will express that capacity until you own it. It will own you. It will appear in your dreams, in your relationships, in the sudden storms of emotion that seem to come from nowhere, but they do not come from nowhere. They come from you. Do not be afraid of this truth. The shadow is not the enemy. The refusal to see it is, once you allow yourself to meet it, not as an intruder, but as a long-lost twin, you will begin to feel a new kind of energy in your life, an energy that does not depend on controlling others or blaming them, but on the steady knowing that you are whole light and dark alike. And so, as we step deeper into this chamber of the psyche, I ask you to loosen your grip on the idea that you are a fixed and completed being. You are not a statue carved from stone. You are an organism that breathes, transforms, and is shaped in every moment by the dance between what you see and what you refuse to see. The shadow lives in this refusal. It is not a stranger at the door. It is the part of you that has been patiently waiting in exile, wearing the masks of the people you cannot bear to understand. You might think of the dream where you are pursued. Perhaps the figure chases you through endless corridors, or appears again and again in different guises, a friend's face, then a stranger's, then some animal with eyes that know you. You wake with your heart pounding and you tell yourself it was only a dream, but the unconscious never sends only a dream. That pursuer is your shadow, begging for acknowledgement. Each time you turn away from it in waking life, it will follow you into the dream world, growing stranger and more insistent until you turn to face it and see that its features are not entirely alien. The shadow is not just the sum of your vices. It is the guardian of your unlived life. Every decision to be good, according to some inherited rule, may have sent a fragment of your vitality into the dark. Your rage, if exiled, takes with it your courage, your sensuality. If repressed, drags along your capacity for intimacy. Your selfishness, then yet carries away your ability to claim your needs. These pieces do not vanish. They take up residence in the unconscious, and they will return to you through others. The man who infuriates you with his bluntness may be carrying the assertiveness you abandoned. The woman whose independence you criticize may be holding the freedom you were told you could not have. But here is the cruel elegance of the psyche. Until you retrieve these pieces, you will not simply lack them. You will often attract those who wield them in distorted form, forcing you to confront the energy in its most uncomfortable expression. This is why your life may feel like a wheel turning through the same kinds of encounters. The wheel will not stop until you recognize that the hub is within you. When you stand in a room and someone's presence burns against your nerves, pause before you rush into judgment. Ask yourself, what quality in them feels dangerous to me? What capacity in myself have I kept locked away because it once brought me shame, or fear, or rejection? This is the beginning of shadow work, not to moralize, but to recognize. If you can name the quality without the armor of condemnation, you will feel a shift inside you, as though a door has been unlatched. Do not think that integrating the shadow will make you nicer or more palatable. That is the ego's fantasy, to imagine that enlightenment is the perfection of virtue. No, Integration makes you whole, and wholeness is beyond the binary of good and evil. It gives you the freedom to choose consciously, where once you were driven unconsciously. The aggression you own can defend you without destroying. The cunning you reclaim can protect without deceiving. The sensuality you accept can connect without consuming. In the myths, there is often a figure who lives at the threshold, half beast, half human, who will not let the hero pass until a toll is paid. This is the shadow's role in your own individuation. It stands between you and the deeper self, demanding not gold or silver, but recognition, until you can look at this guardian and say, yes, you are mine. You will remain at the threshold, mistaking the hallway for the destination. Even your most painful relationships can become sacred when you understand them in this light. The lover who betrayed you, the friend who abandoned you, the parent who failed to see you, all of them may have carried fragments of your shadow to you. This does not excuse their harm, but it does reveal the inner alchemy available to you. To blame them endlessly is to leave the gold in their hands. To take back the projection is to reclaim the treasure as your own. And yet, the shadow will not be integrated in a single act of insight. It is a lifelong courtship. At first, it may only allow you brief glimpses before retreating again into the dark. It will test your sincerity, for it has been banished too long to trust easily. But if you meet it with patience, if you can endure the discomfort of its revelations, you will begin to notice something miraculous. What once appeared as the face of the enemy now feels like the face of a forgotten ally. The world around you will begin to change too, though in truth it is you who are changing. Those who once provoked you may lose their strange power over you. New kinds of people, new kinds of situations will find their way into your life, reflecting the broader range of your integrated self. Where once you saw only enemies, you may now see mirrors. Where once you saw only threat, you may see invitation. But make no mistake, the work is demanding. The temptation to slip back into blame will be strong, especially when the wound is fresh or the betrayal cuts deep. In those moments, remember that the shadow does not appear to destroy you, but to complete you. Remember that the figure you despise most may be the unconscious wearing a mask. Remember that turning away from them is turning away from yourself. And if you doubt this, watch your dreams. They will tell you when the shadow is near. They will show you the animal lurking in the corner, the stranger at the gate, the storm gathering on the horizon. They will speak in images older than language, older than culture, older than you, the language of the collective unconscious. Listen to them, for the shadow is not just personal. It carries the weight of your ancestors, the instincts of your species, the myths of humanity itself. When you work with it, you are not just healing yourself, you are participating in the great work of the soul, the alchemical marriage of opposites that has been sought in every sacred tradition. To look upon your shadow without turning away is to step into that lineage of seekers who have dared to bring light into the depths. When we descend further into this underworld of the psyche, we begin to see that the shadow is not just an accumulation of random personal flaws. It is structured alive with the architecture of archetypes. These are the primordial patterns that shape human behavior across all time and culture. You may think you are simply irritated by an individual's mannerisms or offended by their choices, but beneath that irritation, an ancient figure is stirring. Consider the lover archetype in its conscious, integrated form. The lover is an embodiment of connection, intimacy, and the capacity to feel life fully. But when banished to the shadow, the lover becomes obsessive, jealous, or cold and withholding. If you have denied your own longing for deep contact, you may find yourself surrounded by people who demand more from you than you can give, or who accuse you of emotional distance. You will resent them, but their presence is your psyche's way of showing you the exile you have imposed upon your own yearning. Or the warrior. When honored, the warrior brings discipline, courage, and the will to protect what matters. When buried, the warrior turns up in life as aggression. You cannot stand in others who seem too brash, too forceful, too unapologetic. If you fear your own capacity to assert, you will either submit to such forces or try to destroy them, not realizing that in doing so, you are fighting the part of yourself that was meant to guard your life. The magician is another integrated. The magician offers insight, transformation, and the ability to see beneath appearances. In shadow, it manifests as manipulation, deceit, or dangerous cunning. You may swear that you despise such traits in others, but your hatred burns so hot because somewhere within you, the same intelligence waits unacknowledged, and perhaps you fear what it might do if unleashed without guidance. And the king or queen, the archetype of sovereignty, consciously lived, they embody stewardship, vision, and the ordering of chaos into harmony. Unconsciously buried, they appear in the tyrant or the apathetic ruler, the boss who crushes your spirit, the leader who abdicates their responsibility. Your outrage at their corruption may be justified, but it is also an invitation. Where have you abdicated your own throne? Where have you refused to take responsibility for the domain of your own life, waiting instead for someone else to rule? You see, these archetypes are not out there in others. They are forces within the collective unconscious, and they will use any phase, any circumstance to make themselves known to you. If they cannot come through the front door of your conscious mind, they will slip in through the back, wearing the masks of your enemies, lovers, rivals, and strangers. Each encounter that seizes your attention with disproportionate heat is a flare from the unconscious saying, "This belongs to you." This is why the work of individuation cannot be done in isolation from the world. The monastery of the mind is not enough. The soul needs the friction of relationship to reveal its hidden geography, alone in your own reflections. You can fool yourself into thinking you have integrated everything, but the moment you step into the marketplace of human connection, the shadow will find a way to speak often through the person you least want to listen to. I have seen this in my own work with patients. A man comes to me convinced that his marriage is failing because his wife is too controlling. As we work together, he begins to see that what he calls control is often her insistence on boundaries. Boundaries he has never allowed himself to claim in his own life. The control he resents is the authority he has abandoned. Another patient rails against a colleague's arrogance only to realize, months later, that her fury is rooted in the fact that she has never permitted herself to express pride in her own accomplishments. Such revelations are humbling. They strip away the luxury of seeing ourselves as purely victims of circumstance. They place us squarely in the uncomfortable truth that we are co-authors of our own suffering. But in this discomfort lies power. If you had no part in the creation of your suffering, you would have no part in its resolution. To discover your role in the pattern is to find the lever by which it may be shifted. This is not to diminish the reality of harm. There are those who will act from their own unconscious, harming others without remorse. But even here, the work remains. To take what the encounter has stirred in you and see what is yours to own. This is not about forgiving before you are ready, nor about inviting the harmful back into your life. It is about ensuring that the injury does not become a prison of projection in which you lock away vital aspects of yourself. In mythic terms, every antagonist is a disguised initiator. They push you into the trial you would never choose voluntarily. They play the role of the blacksmith, hammering at the iron of your soul until the hidden blade within you begins to emerge. You may curse them in the process, but one day you will see that their role was part of a greater script, the drama of your own becoming. And so I say again, stop blaming them, not because they are innocent, but because blame keeps you standing still. It fixes your gaze on the surface of the mirror instead of the reflection within it. The moment you turn that gaze inward, the game changes. You cease to be merely a character in their story and become the author of your own. The integration of shadow is not the end of conflict, but it transforms the nature of conflict. You will still meet the aggressive, the arrogant, the manipulative, but instead of being pulled into unconscious reaction, you will feel the stirrings of recognition. You will be able to say, yes, I know this energy. I have met it within myself. I choose now how I will meet it. Without, that is sovereignty. That is freedom. And perhaps most profoundly, the people who once seemed like mirrors of your deepest wound will become mirrors of your deepest growth. The same quality that once drove you into rage or despair may now draw forth compassion, curiosity, even gratitude. For in them, you will see the map of your own journey, the long road from exile to homecoming. The night has always been the kingdom of the shadow. In daylight, the ego rules with its tidy narratives and selective vision, allowing in only what confirms its idea of who you are. But when you sleep, the gatekeepers rest. The unconscious sends its envoys in the form of dreams, sometimes grotesque, sometimes beautiful, always symbolic. These dreams are not random. They are the language of the soul, painting in images what words cannot hold. And often, the shadow speaks most clearly here. Perhaps you dream of a house, you walk through its familiar rooms, only to find a door you have never noticed before. It leads to a basement or an attic or a hidden courtyard, there, in the dimness, waits someone, a stranger, who watches you with unsettling familiarity. You may wake uneasy, thinking nothing of it, but the house is you. The hidden room is the realm of the shadow. And the figure is not a stranger at all, but an aspect of yourself that you have never invited into your conscious life. Sometimes the shadow appears as an animal, a black dog with eyes like embers, a snake coiled in a sunless corner, a bird that circles overhead but never lands. Each carries instinctual energy qualities of the wild psyche that have been banished in your effort to be civilized. In waking life, you may be polite, restrained, endlessly accommodating. In the dream, the dog growls because your anger has been caged too long. The snake waits because transformation coils within you, ready to shed its skin when you dare to face it. Or the shadow comes as a figure of the same sex as you, sometimes hostile, sometimes seductive, always charged with emotion. In Jungian psychology, such figures often embody the personal shadow. Their actions in the dream, blocking your way, insulting you, embracing you, are enactments of the relationship between your conscious self and the qualities you have denied. If they attack you, it may be because you have refused to acknowledge them. If they embrace you, it may signal a step toward integration, but there is a deeper layer still, the archetypal shadow, which may appear as a dark twin, the witch, the sorcerer, the trickster, or the monstrous child. These are not merely personal symbols, they are collective ones, carrying the weight of humanity's oldest stories. To meet them in a dream is to step into the same psychic territory as the heroes and heroines of myth. And as in myth, the encounter is both dangerous and necessary. The ego's instinct upon waking is to explain away these dreams. It was just stress. You tell yourself, I shouldn't read too much into it. But the unconscious is patient. It will send the figure again, in another setting, another costume. It will keep speaking until you are willing to listen. To listen is not to analyze in the cold light of intellect, but to sit with the image as you would sit with an old friend, asking, why have you come? What do you need me to know? Sometimes the answer is not in words at all, but in a felt sense, a heaviness in the chest, a warmth in the gut, a tingling at the back of the neck. These sensations are the psyche's way of signaling that you have touched something alive. Do not rush to domesticate it with interpretation. Let it move through you. Let it disturb you. The shadow's gifts are rarely wrapped in comfort. If you work with your dreams over time, you may notice that the shadow figure begins to change. The pursuer who once terrified you may slow their chase. The hostile stranger may begin to speak. The animal may walk beside you instead of blocking your path. These shifts are not accidents. They are signs that integration is taking place. The energy that once erupted in projection onto others is now finding a place within you. And here is the miracle. As the dream shadow softens, so too does the waking world. The people who once provoked you with unbearable intensity may still behave as they do, but the hook is gone. You see them more clearly without the fog of projection. You may still set boundaries, still walk away, but you do so from a place of choice rather than compulsion. There are cultures where dreams are not treated as private fantasies, but as messages for the whole community. The dreamer tells their vision to the tribe, and the tribe listens as if the dream belonged to all of them, because in a sense it does. The shadow is personal, but it is also collective. What you integrate in yourself ripples outward. You are less likely to lash out, less likely to wound from your own woundedness. You carry a little more light into the shared human night. To work with the shadow in dreams is to engage in a sacred dialogue with the unseen parts of yourself. It is to acknowledge that the psyche is vast, that you are more than the sum of your conscious thoughts and chosen behaviors. It is to live in relationship with the mystery that breathes through you, shaping your encounters, your loves, your conflicts. And so I say, do not fear the shadow's appearance in your dreams. Fear the day when it no longer comes. For that would mean you have closed the door so tightly that even your own soul can no longer reach you. Keep the door ajar. Let the stranger in. Offer them a seat by the fire. You may find in time that they have been carrying a piece of your heart back to you. And now we arrive at the turning point, the moment when theory must become blood, breath, and decision. You have walked with me through the corridors of projection, through the archetypal landscapes, through the dream gates where the shadow slips into your life in its purest form. But all of this means nothing if it remains only an idea. Knowledge of the shadow is not integration. To know you have a shadow is like knowing there's fire. In the next room it warms nothing unless you walk in and stand close enough to feel the heat. This is where most turn away. It is one thing to speak of symbols and archetypes. It is another to confront the living force of your own repressed power. Pain and desire. There will come a day when the shadow appears in flesh and bone, in the voice that cuts you open, in the face that seems to summon every betrayal you have ever suffered. And you will feel the old reflex to defend, to condemn, to withdraw. That is the ego's final stand. But if you can pause just long enough to remember, you may see the outline of your own soul inside their shape. Imagine this. You are in a conversation and someone accuses you of selfishness. The air sharpens, your chest tightens, and your mind leaps to defense. No, you don't understand. I was just... Stop there. Feel the heat in your body. Ask yourself, what if they are speaking? Not to humiliate me, but to touch a place I have hidden even from myself? You may find that the word selfish has always been loaded with shame in your life, that you have built an entire identity around being selfless, around never asking, never taking, and yet here's a mirror showing you the hunger you have locked away the right to choose for yourself. The shadow is speaking, or you encounter someone so arrogant, it feels like a personal insult to be in their presence. You tell yourself you hate arrogance, that humility is the only virtue worth keeping. But beneath your contempt may lie a quiet envie, the recognition that they move through the world with a permission you have never granted yourself. To see that truth is painful, but in that pain lies a path to reclaiming your own right to exist without apology. Every projection, every intense reaction is an invitation to retrieve what you have abandoned, and retrieval is never abstract. It is physical, emotional, sometimes messy. You may have to speak words you have never dared to speak. You may have to allow yourself to feel anger without softening it, to stand your ground without explaining yourself away. The shadow will demand not polite acknowledgement, but full embodiment. Do not mistake integration for indulgence. To integrate anger is not to lash out, it is to be able to use that fire with precision and conscience. To integrate desire is not to surrender to compulsion, but to carry the knowledge of your longing without letting it own you. To integrate cunning is not to deceive, but to see the subtle mechanics of power without being blinded by them. There will be moments when you falter, when you fall back into blame and projection. This too is part of the work. The shadow is not integrated once and for all. It is met again and again in new forms. Each time you have the choice. Will I see only them, or will I also see myself? That question is the fulcrum of transformation. And here is the paradox that will change your life. The moment you own what you once despised in yourself, you no longer need to despise it in others. The charge dissolves, the enemy becomes human again. Sometimes they even become irrelevant. You no longer orbit around their gravity because you have found your own center. But do not expect the world to applaud this work. Some will notice your change and feel threatened. For when you stop playing the game of projection, you will no longer feed the roles others unconsciously assign you. If you have always been the peacekeeper, your newfound boundaries may feel like betrayal to those who relied on your silence. If you have always been the giver, your refusal to bleed for others will be called selfishness. This is the cost of wholeness, to disappoint the illusions others have about you. Yet, the reward is beyond measure. You will no longer live in reaction to the ghosts that walk through other people's bodies. You will see the world as a whole of living archetypes, each encounter an opportunity to expand your own being. You will feel a deep, unshakable knowing that no matter what face the shadow wears, it cannot take from you what you have already claimed within yourself. And when you dream, the figures will still come, but they will no longer be enemies. The pursuer will walk beside you. The snake will shed its skin in your presence. The stranger will remove their mask and reveal your own eyes looking back. You will know then that you have crossed a threshold from which there is no return, and you will not want to return. This is the liberation the shadow offers, not purity, not perfection, but freedom. The freedom to meet yourself in every reflection, to carry both your darkness and your light without fear, and to know that in embracing all of it, you have stepped into the fullness of your humanity. And now, as we approach the close of this journey, let us stand for a moment at the edge of that vast inner field where shadow and light meet. You have walked through the corridors of the unconscious, met the dream figures who guard your forgotten truths, seen the faces of your enemies turn ever so slightly towards the faces of your own lost selves. This is not a small thing. Most people never come this far. They live and die believing the story that the problem is always out there, always someone else's fault, someone else's sin, someone else's shadow. They never look behind the curtain of their own mind because they fear the chaos they might find. But you are here, and here the air is different. Here you begin to sense that what you thought was chaos is in fact a deeper order. one that the conscious mind could not grasp until now. The shadow was never trying to destroy you, it was trying to reunite you with the totality of who you are. It was pressing against the walls of your life because it knew the prison was of your own making. If you can see this, even for a moment, you will understand why projection is such a treacherous comfort. To project is to hand your power to another. It is to place your rage, your hunger, your courage, your cunning, all the raw materials of your becoming into the hands of someone else, and then spend years resenting them for holding it. The shadow work you have begun is nothing less than the slow, sacred act of taking it back. And yes, there will be resistance from others, from the world, and most fiercely from yourself. For each piece of the shadow you reclaim will ask something of you. It will demand that you stop playing small, that you stop hiding behind the story of being wronged, that you step into the place where you must act rather than complain. The lover you take back will ask you to feel without armoring. The warrior you take back will insist you draw boundaries you once avoided. The magician you take back will push you to see truths you once ignored. The king or queen you take back will expect you to rule your life with authority, not abdicated to chance or to the will of others. And when you falter, remember this: the shadow is patient. It has waited for years. It can wait a little longer. It will find you again in a dream, in a stranger's words, in the mirror of a passing conflict. Each return is an opportunity, and the door remains open until the day you die. But the earlier you walk through, the more of your life you will live in wholeness. There is a beauty in this path that no one tells you at the beginning. At first, shadow work feels like dismantling everything you thought you were. But over time, it becomes the most intimate friendship you will ever have. You begin to see that the parts you feared most are also the ones with the deepest gifts. The darkness you avoided contains the same energy that fuels your most luminous moments. You are no longer split into acceptable and unacceptable, saint and sinner, victim and villain. You are one being, indivisible, breathing in rhythm with the great pulse of the collective soul. This is the work of individuation, not to become perfect, but to become whole, to walk into the world knowing that the stranger who irritates you, the enemy who threatens you, the lover who awakens you, and the dream that unsettles you are all doors into the same house. And the house is you. Every corridor, every room, every hidden chamber belongs to you. And each one is worth exploring. So I leave you with this. The next time you find yourself ready to point the finger, to say, they are the problem, pause, feel the heat in your body, the tightening in your mind, and ask, what part of me am I meeting right now? Wearing their face? Then, and this is the most important thing, do not turn away. Stand there, look into their eyes, and keep looking until the mirror reveals itself. You may find yourself trembling. You may find yourself weeping, but you will also find yourself expanding, becoming more than you were the moment before. And that expansion, that fierce, holy reclamation is the sign that the shadow has come home. In that moment, you will understand why I say, stop blaming them. That's your shadow you're looking at. And it has been waiting for you all along.